has closed the gap with former President Donald Trump, but that poll was taken before the global drop in stock markets. We'll have more on that in 2 minutes. Here's Skylar Henry with the details from the White House.
Vice President Kamala Harris left the Naval Observatory Monday afternoon, headed to meetings at the White House. On Sunday, at least 3 running mate finalists were seen arriving at the vice president's home for in-person interviews. Harris is expected to pick one of these 6 men to join her on the Democratic ticket. CBS News has learned she plans to announce her choice Tuesday morning, just in time for a new running mate to join her for a campaign swing through 7 battleground states.
It's an honor to be considered. But regardless of what happens through the process, I'm going to do everything I can to get Kamala Harris elected as President of the United States this November.
A new CBS News poll now shows Harris statistically tied with former President Trump in those battlegrounds, as well as nationally. The poll shows a big jump for Democrats compared to when President Biden was still running. When he dropped out, he had a 5% deficit nationwide.
Well, thank you.
Trump campaigned in the battleground state of Georgia over the weekend with a rally at the same arena where Vice President Harris campaigned a few days earlier.
If Harris wins this election, you will quickly have a Kamala economic crash. You're going to have a crash.
The CBS News poll shows Trump with a lead over Harris when it comes to the economy.
Donald Trump still has a big edge on that, just like he did against Joe Biden.
Trump has been posting about the markets dropping on social media throughout the day, including this one saying simply, Trump cash versus Kamala crash. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Now we turn to the sudden plunge of the stock market today, which is reacting worldwide sharply to some bad economic news in the United States. Jared Hill has a look at what's behind the sell-off and has advice for investors.
Stocks nosedived as soon as the opening bell rang. The Dow sank more than 1,000 points in seconds Monday, with tech and bank stocks hit hard. The turbulence on Wall Street follows a major sell-off worldwide. Japan's Nikkei index plummeted for a second day, marking the worst 2-day decline ever.
Japan is definitely the market being affected the most, but there are also other tech-savvy markets such as South Korea and Taiwan.
The global decline stems from Friday's U.S. jobs report, which showed hiring slowing more than expected and the unemployment rate jumping to 4.3%. Consumer spending drives the economy, and there are also signs that Americans are dialing back after McDonald's and Starbucks reported slowing sales.
And all of a sudden, we started to worry that maybe consumers are under pressure, the job market isn't as strong. Then we get this generalized fear that the economy is slowing down, maybe headed into a recession.
That fear has many Wall Street traders looking to sell. But CBS News business analyst Joe Schlesinger says the average person shouldn't overreact.
If you are a long-term investor, take a deep breath. It is very scary, I get it. But if you're investing for decades in the future, even if you're 60 years old, you stay still, you do nothing. You try to maintain your game plan.
The market unrest has many experts questioning why the Federal Reserve didn't cut interest rates at last week's meeting, which could have given the economy a boost. Analysts now expect a significant cut at the next meeting in September. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
In news out of the U.S. Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas is in the headlines again for another trip he allegedly took on a mega donor's private jet. This time, the trip in question is a 2010 flight to New Zealand from Hawaii and back a week later with Harlan Crow. Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden says the Supreme Court justice never reported the flight. Crow has taken Thomas on trips in the past, including on his yacht. Thomas has previously said he was advised he didn't have to disclose that hospitality. Wyden is targeting Crow himself, this time saying the trip may have tax implications if he wrote it off on his return. Crow's spokesman says the accusation is harassment. Thomas has not commented on the matter. The Supreme Court adopted a code of conduct last year for the first time in history, but it has no teeth because it relies on self-reporting without any other enforcement. New video overnight shows emergency crews at the scene of a crash that killed 2 people. It happened on the H1 eastbound near the Honolulu Airport viaduct. Around 9:30 last night, police say a driver rear-ended a 3-wheeled motorcycle that was carrying 2 men, ages 55 and 56. Both Both of them unfortunately died at the scene. They were not wearing helmets. The other driver, a 37-year-old man, was seriously injured and rushed to the hospital. Police are looking into what led up to the crash. And in West Oahu, police are looking for the driver responsible for seriously injuring a moped rider in Kapolei. The 25-year-old man was rear-ended around 1:15 Sunday morning on Makakilo Drive. We're told he was not wearing a helmet and suffered a head injury. No other details have been released about the suspect's vehicle. You can call Honolulu Police at 808-723-3413 with any information.
An update on a missing persons case. For the first time, the Army is speaking out about the disappearance of a pregnant woman from her Schofield Barracks home on Thursday. The Army Criminal Investigation Division is offering a $10,000 reward for information on 19-year-old Misha Johnson. In a statement to Hawaii News Now, the military said, quote, U.S. Army Hawaii continues to investigate the missing person report involving a spouse of a service member. We treat these reports with the highest level of care and attention and request the public's assistance. Johnson is 5'2" and 170 pounds. She's Filipino and 6 months pregnant. Johnson also has a large dragon tattoo on her back. If you have any information, call the number on your screen. This week marks the one-year anniversary of the Maui wildfire disaster. The morning after the tragedy in West Maui, most of the world didn't know how bad it really was. Casey Lund is in Lahaina with the story of a local helicopter pilot who was one of the first people to see the devastation.
When the Lahaina fire burned through this special place right up to the shoreline here, it wasn't clear that day or even early into the next morning how bad things really were. It wasn't until the sun came up and a local aviator took to the skies that Hawaii and the world saw how devastating this wildfire was.
About 500 across both runways there, Sonny.
He's been flying helicopters for decades.
Okay, Roger, I'm going southwest to McGregor.
Pilot Richie Olston has flown over just about every acre of the Valley Isle.
You see this solar farm they built down here?
But this route, over the old sugar mill, following Hono'opi'ilani Highway, he hasn't flown this way in a full year.
This is when the shock factor, set in, reaching this point here.
The cleared, gravel-filled lots.
Now this is all cleaned up here. Now this.
A stark contrast to the shimmering blue waters that kiss the shoreline, and a bleak reminder of what happened here.
Foundations of buildings, the cement that's left behind, and then just rubble and smoke everywhere, smoldering, like I said in the earlier time, like a war zone.
The fire burned Lahaina on August 8th. Olston was flying his normal tour to Molokai, which doesn't go by West Maui, but he saw the smoke.
But we just figured it was the same thing that's happened before of the fields, the fields that don't have any crops in them, that they were burning.
The following morning on August 9th, 2023, with communication to West Maui cut off and very little information from public officials, this seasoned pilot, like many of us, wasn't sure just how bad things were. But he had a helicopter.
I asked the owner of the company, I said, hey, I'd like to fly out there and see if there's any destruction.
Olston and his crew were some of the first in the world to see how devastating the fire had been.
And man, I get chicken skin just talking about it right now because it was just unbelievable. And as we proceeded along the south and came up to Lahaina Harbor and saw even the boats in the harbor, except a few of them had burned to the water line, and we were in shock. We could not believe what we were seeing. We were looking at each other in the helicopter and saying, is this real? Is the town is gone? We were just had tears in our eyes. We came back, and after viewing that, we came back and landed, and we were in disbelief. It was shocking.
They flew in supplies for free to help those who had lost everything. Now, 1 year later, above Lahaina.
How are you feeling? Well, feeling relieved that restoration has taken place, But again, the impact of it, of all these homes and buildings being gone in the historic section, everything is still, heartbreaking, unimaginable.
Be sure to join us for our 1-hour special Maui wildfires disaster 1 year later, as we retell some of these stories, revisit some of the folks we talked to 1 year ago, and look to see what the state is doing to make sure that what happened in Lahaina never happens again. Now, coming up, we'll also be talking with educators, students, and parents as many Lahaina students prepare to head back to class on Wednesday. Remember, our 1-hour special is airing tomorrow night. It airs at 7 o'clock on KGMB and across all our digital platforms. Reporting in Lahaina town, I'm Casey Lund. For now, we'll send things back to you.
Meanwhile, one of the attorneys representing Maui fire survivors in a $4 billion settlement says it's one of the fastest he's seen in his 35 years of doing wildfire-related litigation. Annalisa Burgos has more on how the funds will be distributed.
To get one of these settlements done in a complex wildfire case inside of a year is very unusual.
Michael Watts was one of the lawyers who worked on the Maui deal and has negotiated several utility-caused wildfire settlements, including the $13.5 billion deal that covered California's deadly Camp Fire in 2018.
These mass fire settlements are distributed in the following way, and that is that the funds will be placed into a trust. When we settled with PG&E in California for $13.5 billion, the money was placed in what's called the Fire Victims Trust. And so something along those lines will be the vehicle into which all the money is going to be placed. It will then be allocated by a special master or a trustee. This is usually a former judge or an expert in mass tort distribution procedures, and then they'll have, in effect, trust rules where businesses with losses can submit their tax returns showing their losses. Individuals who were killed can submit their information, or their families can, with respect to the relationships that were lost. Then, of course, all of the property owners that lost their homes, the businesses that lost their business structures, everybody will be able to submit into this trust, and the trust will begin making distributions very quickly in accordance with the trust rules.
While the Maui deal was reached in record time, getting money into survivors' hands is a different story.
We've already communicated to people who are interested in serving as a trustee that speed is of critical importance here, because obviously we have an entire town that cannot start rebuilding without these resources.
Watts said the settlement helps HECO avoid filing for bankruptcy and eases concerns about lengthy legal battles.
In speaking with your clients, how are they feeling? Are they happy as well about this?
They wanted their case settled as quickly as possible for the most money that was possible. And unfortunately, one of the parties that caused this fire, Hawaii Electric, is not a $40 billion corporation like PG&E. It's got a much smaller rate base. It already has the highest rates in the United States. And so resources are scarce. And that's where the governor came in, and he put together a group of parties, including Kamehameha Schools, including the state itself, the county of Maui. Everybody had to take a haircut, if you will, to try to put this deal together.
A deal, Watts says, that's the best possible and fastest possible, and hopefully a wake-up call for HECO and other utility companies to secure and update their infrastructure and prevent future disasters.
It requires investment, it requires resources, and it requires leadership.
Annalisa Burgos, Hawaii News Now.
The state says it cleared a Sand Island encampment that was home to a pack of dogs. This comes after this video went viral on social media. While the owner surrendered 7 puppies, we've confirmed she was allowed to keep 15 dogs. Now, some neighbors are concerned about where the animals will end up next. Eddie Dowd has the details.
People who use this walkway here in Sand Island tell me the pack of dogs are right down there by the bridge. They are often unleashed and make their presence known to people who pass by. The most recent encounter involving this pack of dangerous dogs was caught on camera and posted Thursday on the Instagram page HHH News. We met this man wearing full protective sun gear who says he passes through the area often.
When my bike, they chase you, you run around, someone get run over, or somebody might bite you or what, never know.
He says the dogs in the video belong to a person living in a nearby homeless camp.
One lady was over here, homeless lady, get 7, 8, 9, 10 dogs.
Oh, the old lady owns the dogs?
Yeah.
On Friday, officers with DONR along with DOT crews found 15 dogs and 7 puppies, some of which were described as very aggressive. Dole care officers were on scene to keep the dogs from attacking staff and pedestrians as DOT crews cleared the encampment.
Our staff is extremely experienced in making sure that we can clear sites to keep it safe for everybody and make sure we understand what they want to keep and what they want to get rid of. And also make sure that we work with our vulnerable population to get them to connected to more supportive social services.
Officials say the Hawaiian Humane Society did respond to the scene, and the owner of the dogs relinquished the puppies to the state so they could find the animals new homes. Meanwhile, the owner was allowed to keep the remaining 15 dogs. It's unclear exactly why. The issue of dangerous dogs roaming the area is not new. Over the years, H&N has reported similar instances at homeless camps under the Nimitz Viaduct.
Hello, anybody home? Hey.
As well as dog attacks on a nearby bike path.
They bit through right here on my back, and that's where the dog got it and was starting to pull me backwards.
While many say they're relieved the encampment is gone, some are concerned where the aggressive dogs will end up next. Eddie Dowd, Hawaii News Now.
All right, let's take you live outside now. This is Charleston, South Carolina. There's a severe weather alert there as Hurricane Debby is expected to stall over the area. We're going to have much more on this after the break, plus a look at the local forecast with Guy Hagi.
How's it on this Monday? And now that we're in the third month of hurricane season, things remain rather quiet here in the Central Pacific, but we got lots of activity in the East Pacific. In fact, we have 3 tropical storms. We have Carlotta, Daniel, and Emilia. None of them are expected to bring us any severe weather. Now, behind it, there's another potential tropical storm, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. But again, they are not expected to bring us any severe weather. The hope, though, is that they hold together long enough to bring us some rain, and there is a possibility of that maybe over the weekend. Now, this morning you can see it's still mostly dry. We do have a few windward showers for East Maui, windward Oahu, and the east side of Hawaii Island, but those showers are relatively light. And those winds will be running at surplus speeds at least through Wednesday. We are expecting these winds to back down sometime from Thursday on, so it's going to be a little stickier towards the end of the week.
Other than that, though, it's going to be another beautiful day with lots of sunshine, partly sunny to partly cloudy skies. We'll see warm temperatures climbing into the upper 80s, but those trade winds, well, they'll keep humidity levels at comfortable levels, but that also means there's that underlying brush fire threat. So heads up on that. And we still have that southwest swell. It's on the way down, but still offering some overhead sets. And with those breezy winds, conditions are pretty good, although they're choppy over on the windward side. So we've got nice, settled, comfortable weather all the way through Wednesday with those breezy winds. Lighter trade winds coming back on Thursday. And again, we could see some showers, maybe increase on Sunday.
Debby has weakened to a tropical storm after making landfall in Florida's Big Bend coast as a hurricane on Monday. At least 4 storm-related deaths have been reported so far. The threat is catastrophic flooding as Debby slowly moves inland and up through Georgia. CBS's Christian Benavides is in Savannah.
Crews worked to remove downed trees and debris in Monticello, Florida, after Debby made landfall into Big Bend coast as a Category 1 hurricane.
We're really amazed that the water hadn't came over the seawall again so far. Hopefully, on this next tide that it won't.
Storm surge is expected to be the biggest threat in Florida, with 6 to 10 feet of inundation above ground level predicted in some coastal spots. Rescue boats were out in Sarasota, which has already received 10 to 12 inches of rain. Tragically, a 13-year-old died when the storm toppled a tree onto a mobile home in Levy County. Now a tropical storm, forecasters say Debby is headed for coastal areas of Georgia and the Carolinas and will slow down dramatically.
We're going to see the center of the system just crawl along the southeast coast of the United States for 2 to 3 days. This is going to result in a prolonged extreme rainfall event.
City officials in Savannah declared a curfew beginning at 10 p.m. It's when the heaviest rainfall is expected.
That's what the purpose for the curfew is, to get folks out of the way of what you've never seen before.
Savannah residents loaded up sandbags preparing for what officials are calling historic and unprecedented levels of water.
How are you feeling?
I'd rather not be here right now, but what are you going to do?
Melanie Smith got a helping hand from Sean Gardner.
I'm originally from the Bahamas, so we know about storms, really.
With a predicted 30 inches of rain in 3 days, Debby could pack a prolonged punch. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Savannah, Georgia.
A major legal setback for Google. A federal judge ruled today the tech giant has violated U.S. antitrust laws with its search business. The decision has the potential to reshape how millions of Americans get information online and could put an end to Google's dominance. The company has spent tens of billions of dollars on exclusive contracts to secure a dominant position as the world's default search provider on smartphones and web browsers. The government said those contracts helped block rivals such as Microsoft's Bing and DuckDuckGo. It is unclear what penalties Google may face. Another hearing will likely determine that. So far, no reaction from the tech giant.
Well, the second full week of competition well underway and so many highlights to keep track of. Let's start with this. Team USA men's volleyball against Brazil in the quarterfinals, a match that wrapped up just after 11. This squad, essentially Team Hawaii with so many local connections, Eric Shoji, Micah Christensen, Micah Ma'a, Taylor Averill, the Americans rolled through in 4 sets in what was a commanding performance. The USA advances to the semis and will face Poland. Moving over to Tahiti, final day of the surfing competition down in Te Ahupo'o. They'll be blazing through the semifinals and the medal rounds. Men's heat's going on right now. Some Hawaii connections in the women's semi. Brisa Hennessy and Tatiana Weston Webb. Hennessy spent her childhood on Oahu's North Shore, surfs for Costa Rica. Weston Webb raised on Kauai and represents Team Brazil. The entire surfing competition expected to wrap up just after 3 in the afternoon Hawaii time. And finally, the gymnastics competition comes to a close today. Simone Biles wrapping up just a remarkable showing in these Olympics, suited up in the floor exercise final. Unfortunately, she had a couple of out-of-bounds violations, which led to her finishing with a silver medal just behind Brazil's Rebecca Andrade. Nonetheless, what a run. 4 medals in Paris, 11 overall for her career. Her Team USA teammate, Jordan Childs, earned the bronze. And now to our medal count, the U.S. with a commanding lead, 78 overall, 20 of them gold. China and host country France round out the top 3. And don't forget, Hawaii News Now is your home for the Olympic Games. Primetime coverage is tonight on KHNL.
Thank you so much, Mark. I was watching that volleyball game, and as always, incredible athleticism. Just the spikes were just incredible to
Second
watch.
set, though. Oh, my gosh.
Talk about a thriller.
Screaming at the TV.
Real quick, I want to send a big mahalo to Kumu Leimomiho for this lei that I'm wearing today. As we celebrated her 80th birthday over the weekend, she had a big pa'ina, and it was the same night as the Hokus, but it was still so amazing to see all the big names in the Hawaiian entertainment industry there to celebrate Kumu Leimomiho. Aloha.